Well, the Predators' 4-game win streak ends in a back-and-forth contest against the Toronto Maple Leafs that ends at the very last minute. We will break down the Preds' loss to the Maple Leafs and what went wrong today on the Locked On Preds podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. That's available to you wherever you get your podcast, and of course on YouTube. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and editor at InsideThePreds.com.
Also want to mention today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Ann, let's pour one out for the Predators' 4-game winning streak. Predators went up to Toronto last night. I love that mug.
Isn't it great?
Fantastic mug.
Yes.
David. For those of you listening on podcasts instead of watching us on YouTube, Anne has a wonderful Schitt's Creek mug. Fantastic. The Predators lost 2-1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. Kind of difficult to make this game out, Anne. I mean, yeah, and I'll weigh in more on my one word in a second, but it just when you take a step back, it's kind of hard to judge what this game was.
It is a little bit tricky to take away meaning from this game, to take away a factual meaning from this game. I have some feelings about this game, but you know what we say about feelings. So I'm not sure what this game tells us about where the Nashville Predators are. So it was a 2-1 loss. Little bit painful. John Tavares opened the scoring in the first period. Filip Forsberg, and we're going to get to this. We're going to talk about this goal. Filip Forsberg tied the game up at the beginning of the second period with chef's kiss goal. I mean, what in the ever-loving flagnog? It was so beautiful. And then the third period was back and forth, and thought, okay, we're at least going to get a point out of this. And then wah. And Mitch Marner ended up winning the game with a minute 15 left, just because it was painful. So that's how it unfolded.
And it should be noted that happened on a 4-minute power play as well. Basically the entire rest of the game. And we will get to that too.
Oh, won't we?
Yeah. All right, Ann, one word to describe last night's game.
Okay, I have to give a fat shout out to Brian the Gamer 24 on Twitter, because I am, we rack our brains for one word, but I am simply going to steal his one word because I feel like, yep, nailed it. Nailed it.
Like cheating, but okay.
Okay, let's just be honest here. Let's give Brian the Gamer 24 2 points, because Nick and I was
also going to use his tweet as my one word.
Which is so funny because, full disclosure, behind the scenes, Nick and I never ever share our one word. We just don't ever do it. And I happened to mention in passing, I saw a one word on Twitter and I can't, it completely summed up the game and I'm using it. And he said, not Brian, the Gamer 24s. I was going to use that. So today I get dibs, and full credit twice goes to Brian the Gamer 24, because this is what he tweeted. One word for this game: penalties. From calls being missed to the call that cost the Preds this game, that's the best word for the game. Maybe heartbreak too. And yes, I give you half credit for heartbreak is too. So I agree 100% with Brian. One word for this game is penalties. And that is not a word that I feel like has influenced outcomes of games when the Predators have been playing well. So very disappointing that that's the one word that Brian and I, and you also, Nick, agree on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was going to use that as my one word because I think that perfectly summed up kind of a underlying big story of the game is that this was scattered throughout. Not only do the Predators have, 5 penalties that they had to kill off, Toronto only had 2. Say what you will about that.
And people will, in case you haven't been on Twitter this morning, people will say things.
Well, yeah. If you ask a few Toronto people, they should have had maybe 8 penalties or
Yeah.
eight power plays.
Yeah.
For whatever takes they have.
Mhm.
There were some calls that, were 50-50 fine. There were some calls against Nashville that probably shouldn't have gone our way or probably shouldn't have gone the Maple Leafs way. What I'm trying to say is they shouldn't have been called.
Yes.
That's the very blunt way of saying it.
Mhm.
There were a couple of really bad missed calls on
Yes.
Toronto, and I know everybody is talking about the Nino Niederreiter clip. I don't think that was a penalty. I think that was just 2 dudes skating, and that had just happened to run into each other. But there was a very blatant high stick on Jeremy Lauzon by, I believe it was William Nylander that went uncalled. There was, with a minute left, a high stick on Ryan Johansson coming into the zone that was missed. And then at the end of the day, the difference in the game wound up being a call that nobody can deny was the correct call.
100%.
And it was a very, very poor play by Mark Jankowski to go for the high-sticked Morgan Rielly, got a 4-minute penalty. I mean, you saw the words that Morgan Rielly mouthed to Mark Jankowski after checking his mouth.
I didn't.
I will. It's, we can't say it word for word on here, but it loosely translates to, "Oh, I'm sorry. I believe you have done a mistake and given us a 4-minute power play."
Roughly translated.
Roughly translated. You even saw Morgan Rielly taunt Jankowski by holding up the 4 to his face after that.
Brutal.
Yeah, it was, who knows what's going to happen.
Wasn't even made like in the moment. You've got, Rielly is down, turtled up, looks up, blood running down his face, and the refs are like, "We should circle up."
Well,
what were you doing?
Here's my thing, Anne. Like, who knows with John Hines, but have you ever seen anybody future healthy scratched in real time?
Oh,
because we might have just seen that happen to Mark Jankowski.
I know. Did you see his face? And the mom and me. Look, the hockey play or the hockey fan in me and the mom and me. Sometimes I'm pulled in separate directions. The mom and me, when they showed his face sitting on the bench at the end of the game, I just wanted to be like, "Here's a cookie. You jacked up. You screwed up. We're going to learn from this and we're going to move on." But I thought, "Oh, I'm not the coach. I don't know, man."
Yeah. If this was like 3 months ago and that was Ellie Tolvanen that made that play instead of Mark Jankowski, Ellie Tolvanen wouldn't have been waived. He would have been like taken out back to a farm somewhere, a nice little farm.
Played with all the dogs.
Yeah. Well, John Hines is polishing his shotgun as he walks out the door. Yeah, I mean, it was very, very dumb play by Jankowski, who has played a lot of good hockey this year.
He has.
But yeah, I mean, that was kind of the theme of the night, and a lot of, one bad penalty on Nashville to that kind of, screwed the game for us at the end, probably cost them a point, and is probably the difference, to be honest, between, the Preds maybe being happy with this game.
Yes, which was frustrating because Up until that point, I feel like Nashville could have walked out of that arena with 1 point or 2 points and felt like, okay, you know what? This was a pretty good game against a really good team. Now, the Maple Leafs didn't have Auston Matthews, and you do have to acknowledge that, especially when you give Toronto so many power play opportunities. He's their best power play scorer. So could it have looked different? But I will say this, Nashville's penalty kill up until that game-winning goal with 1:15 left to go, Nashville's penalty kill absolutely owned the ice for each of those 2-minute penalties. They owned the ice. I don't think Toronto got off, but maybe a couple of man advantage shots, because the penalty kill was aggressive and played really well.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that in a second. Plus, I want to get to my one word. Let's take a break, though. We're going to say today's show is sponsored by Bet Online and betonline.net, your number one source for sports betting, info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there, from pro football to college basketball to the NBA, NHL, European soccer, tennis, golf, whatever. You name it, they've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts like this one right here, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Ann, I want to get to my one word because it kind of ties into what we were just talking about.
Okay.
And that is two-faced. This is going back to, the verb two, or the adjective two-faced, but also the Batman character.
Gotcha.
He's like, at first he's got all pretty like face one side, and then just the disfigured acid purple guy on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of supposed to be like Harvey Dent as a character. It's like, he's this like noble man, was this like, noble man. And then like on the other side, it's like his pain, and he wants to make everybody suffer, and, chaos, basically, like there's good in chaos and stuff like that. And that kind of describes this game for me last night, Ann, because there were some really good things that the Nashville Predators did last night. You mentioned the defense. I think team defense, other than a few hiccups here and there, played really well against Toronto last night. The penalty kill last night was the star of the show. I mean, it took like a very, very good, cheeky fake shot from William Nylander, and then the pass to Mitch Marner to seal the deal to break that defense. But overall, like, it wasn't a case of, a penalty kill gave up a goal. Like, Toronto had to do something, like a really good play, to beat the Preds penalty kill.
Yes.
And there's also just a lot of moments where it's like, you look and it's like, I think the Predators are kind of taking it to Toronto, like in these past like 5-6 minutes. Like, they would really get a few like really good runs going. And then on the other hand, you just have some very glaring mistakes that offset some of these. Juuse Saros bailed them out, towards the end. I think it was the first period, maybe the second period. It was at the end of the period, but Mikael Granlund, really bad turnover that led to like a really good chance the other way. You of course had the Mark Jankowski, just sloppy penalty at the end. We didn't talk about this earlier, but at the beginning of the game, really kind of sloppy play from Tanner Jeannot that led to a penalty. And there's just like some really good hockey from the Nashville Predators last night, but offset by a couple of jarring mistakes, again, one of which did cost them the game at the end.
Mm-hmm. And that's my trouble with kind of getting a takeaway from this game, because you can look at the statistics, you can look at, this was a 2-1 game. The Predators were tied right up until the last minute. This 1 4-minute double minor penalty at the end cost the Predators this game. But when you break it down, I agree with you. There are periods of time that are a little bit concerning. That whole first period, Toronto ran the ice for the most part in that first period. Nashville came out the second period and then started to say, okay, now we want to take some turns. And that, panned out better for the Predators in the second and third period. But that first period was pretty much all Toronto and Nashville kind of playing back on their heels. So there are periods in this game where it's like, I don't know really what the takeaway is. There's the big takeaway, could have gotten 1 or 2 points out of this, didn't because of a mistake. That stinks, but we were still really competitive against a top team in the league. But when you look at it, it's alarming to me for a couple reasons. Number one, the Predators only got 1 goal. And in the last stretch of games, Nashville has been able to generate a lot of offense. Oh, yes.
Can I chime in on that?
Chime.
Because here's the thing about that. How many times have we said, Juuse Saros has bailed Nashville out and, he allowed, 1 goal or 2 goals when he should have let in like 4 or 5. Can we not say the same thing about Matt Murray last night for Toronto?
True.
I mean,
very true.
He robbed the Predators on some chances. That Tanner Jeannot one at the very beginning.
Can that boy not just catch a freaking break? I literally was like, it's like there is invisible saran wrap.
Yeah,
for poor Tanner Jeannot.
There was that. There was the Tommy Novak chance in the third period where Juuso Parssinen made a great play to set up Tommy Novak wide open in front of the net. Novak, great shot. Just Matt Murray just happened to kind of slide over to the right place at the right time. In the last, 5 minutes too. I mean, the Predators had some chances. Right before that penalty was called, right before, after Mitch Marner scored the goal, Murray had a couple of really good plays right at the end when the Predators had the net empty. So, I mean, you talk about maybe there's a concern that the Preds only managed to score 1 goal, but you also have to kind of tip your hat to a good goaltending performance on the other side. As many stolen wins as Juuse Saros has had for Nashville, you can make a case that Matt Murray, on the other hand, also kept a few should have been goals off the board for Toronto.
I would agree with that. I think he did have a really great game, which is annoying because I still have a little bit of an issue with him from his Pittsburgh Penguin days.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say that it's just a little alarming to me that the Predators were in a game where they only scored 1 goal, where we're now 1 for 12 on the power play in this last little stretch. And that was something that was going well for Nashville. So when Nashville wasn't able to capitalize on their 2 power play chances, and they only had 2 compared to Toronto's 5, make of that what you will. They just haven't been able to convert like they were on the power play. And so there is a part of me that walked away from this game saying, hey, you know what? We were competitive and could have won a game against a top team in the league. Okay. There is also a part of me that maybe is not as confident as I thought I was in where the Nashville Predators are now, and asking myself, is this Nashville going back to not generating enough offense, not capitalizing on special teams, and not going to be able to eliminate mistakes that cost them? A little bit of a little nervous about that after this game. And I hate to admit that because, I'm a optimist, but there's a part of me that's like, will the real Nashville Predators stand up? Is this team the team that finds ways, regardless of outcome, that finds ways to play games, generate offense against top teams and capitalize on special teams? Or were these last few 4 games just lightning in a bottle? I don't know. I don't know what to take away from this game, Nick. I don't know how much to weigh it. I don't know how much to weigh it. And I don't feel better knowing that tonight they play Montreal. You would think that would make me feel better. I feel a little nervous.
I mean, yeah. It is the Nashville Predators, and we have seen them lose some games they should win, particularly this year, particularly against teams from Canada.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, if this was out of context from maybe all the conversation surrounding the Nashville Predators, this would be a loss you would be okay with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where it's, you tip your hat and it's like, you know what? We did some good things. We also did some bad things. At the end, it took a 4-minute power play goal with a minute left to beat us, including a really, really good move. You would, if this was a good team, like if the roles were reversed and Toronto, lost that game, you would be able to say, okay, well, we threw everything we had on them. It took a good goaltending performance to keep some sure goals off the board, and it took a last-second power play to beat us. And they would be like, that's fine. We're still, where we are, and we're not going to win 82 games. I think because it's Nashville and, there's not only, a playoff chase going on, but also a debate about whether or not the team should rebuild and all this and that. I think that is more, games like this go under the microscope a little bit more than it would for a Toronto or a Boston or a Vegas or, the teams towards the top.
Yes. I think we still are trying to figure out who is this team consistently going to be down the line. And I can live with a 2-1 loss to a top team in the league as long as it's not indicative of bigger problems that are going to come back to bite this team consistently down the line. And I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I mean, I feel like we've been trying to figure out that debate for about 5 years now.
I know. How do we not have this nailed down? But I mean, that's just where the Predators are right now.
Welcome to being a Nashville Predators fan, folks.
It's amazing. There actually is some amazing news that we need to talk about. There was a very interesting call-up stirring the pot in Nashville yesterday that we absolutely have to talk about. And we do need to preview the game tonight because it is a back-to-back. Nashville Predators take on Montreal tonight. So we are going to preview that game in just a minute. But first, want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Built Bar. If you are looking for a delicious treat and a way to stick to your New Year's resolution to make healthier choices, then you've got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know that my goal is to eat a little bit healthier this year. And if you're like me, where you want to eat healthier, but you also don't want to compromise on taste, we've got just the thing for you. You've got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. They are so delicious. You won't think they're good for you, but they are. Built bars are covered in 100% chocolate, so that's why they taste good. They come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, mint brownie, coconut almond. And I don't know how they do it, but the bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. What's even better, healthy. They have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't have to wait around for a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built bars at Built.com, which you can still do, but you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. You can head to your nearest Walmart today, walk on over to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built bars, or you can pick up a 4-bar box of things like cookies and cream, double chocolate coconut puffs. If you're near a Sam's Club where everything's just a little bit bigger and better, you can grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors, brownie batter or churro. Go ahead and get them. You can thank us for them later. And of course, you can still go to Built.com to order your favorite flavors today. So check out Built Bar at Walmart, Sam's Club, or Built.com.
And you know who deserves a delicious Built Bar?
Who's that?
Filip Forsberg. For that goal last night. Somehow we haven't talked about this yet. The goal, the Predators' one goal, very good move. If you haven't seen it, he took a feed down low in the slot, went across the slot, and put Matt Murray on some slip and slidage. Got him out of the net. Just very good hands to kind of fake out everybody. Very good goal from Filip Forsberg. Wound up getting the Sports Center treatment. Wound up getting, the little GIF and all that good stuff. So
poor Matt Murray looked like a beach starfish.
Yeah.
Like way down the beach. That was amazing. And shout out to Juuse Saros, who made that pass, got it past a sprawling defenseman to get it to Filip Forsberg right where it needed to be. That little Juuse Saros. Something to be said for that guy.
Yeah, a very good feed from him, too, to set that up, too. Give Juuse a Built Bar while we're at it, too. Why not?
Absolutely.
Built Bars for everybody. All right, Ann. The big news that's not really big news. Let's be honest.
Let's just give people a moment to imagine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So Yaroslav Askarov has
on.
gotten his first NHL call-up.
Come on.
He is on the Predators active roster.
Yes, he
we
is.
should say probably before we're like, yeah, we're going to see Askarov in action. Probably not. The reason that he was called up yesterday was because apparently Kevin Lankinen missed morning skate, wasn't feeling 100%, not sure if it was due to illness or some kind of ailment. Was a game time decision, and the Predators wanted Askarov there just in case. And Lankinen did wind up being on the bench yesterday. So Askarov was a healthy scratch. But, hey, we can dream, right, Ann?
I mean, does it not just make your heart flutter a little bit? Because here's what's real about Yaroslav Askarov. He is not ready to play in the NHL. But how delightful is it just to know that he could? And hopefully everything is... It's one of those things where, like, ideally, no, you absolutely don't want him starting a game. I'm sure that Kevin Lankinen is probably going to get the start tonight, in that everything will be fine. This was very clearly marked precautionary call up. So I think, as much as it makes me giddy, like, temper, we're probably not going to see him. And that's a good thing for Askarov. He's played well in Milwaukee, was just named to the AHL All-Star list. Had a couple of games that were a little woof, but 2 shutouts in which he takes the net and puts it down on the ice, which I'm like, what a signature move. Like, I'm here for this. Right. Got everybody very excited. I was trying to think through scenarios because, look, I know it's not going to happen. We're not going to see Yaroslav Askarov, but I was trying to think through scenarios like, what if something is really wrong with Kevin Lankinen and he can't go tonight? What do the Predators do?
I would assume Saros gets back-to-back, right?
With Buffalo on Saturday?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what you do. Because normally when you have, an AHL call-up like that, you usually just play, have the main guy play back-to-back. I mean, we've seen that before, and you just have him unless there's, an emergency or you really want to see what he can do. I mean, where the Predators are, maybe you would start Askarov tonight just to see what he can kind of do. I mean, it's against one of the worst teams in the NHL. And, if there was a game to do it, it would be this one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I spent way too much time going over it in my mind last night. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like Lankinen's okay and it's not going to be an issue, but hey, if for some reason...
Say this is a choose your own adventure book, Nick, and you get to the end of the page and the page says, oh no, Kevin Lankinen can't go tonight. To start Juuse Saros, turn to page 86. To start Yaroslav Askarov, turn to page 22. Which page are you turning to?
I mean, probably to Askarov.
Yeah.
Just because I would love some good ratings on the show for tomorrow. One way or the other.
And here is what we know about Yaroslav Askarov. On and off the ice, he brings the people. His milkshake brings the people to the yard, or whatever that saying is, because he is so delightful. I don't know how many feet and inches tall he is, but he is that much delight. But yeah, I spent way too much time last night going, well, if Lankinen for some reason can't go, you don't really want to start Saros in back-to-back games when you've got Buffalo on Saturday. But you also can't just throw away a Montreal game, because if the Nashville Predators lose in Montreal tonight, and that's how they end the 5-game road trip, are we going to feel like this 5-game road trip was a waste because you just lost to a team you shouldn't lose to, and Nashville needs all the points they can get? But if you're going to start Askarov, you would want to start him against the worst team. That was my internal dialogue last night.
How much cup of coffee did you have last night? At
You know what? I had a cherry Coke. That's all it took was a
at 1 a.m.?
I had a late cherry Coke. I hardly ever drink soda. Hardly ever. And if I do, I drink it before noon. But I was wild and crazy last night. I heard the Askarov news and I'm like, let's have a cherry Coke. And then that's what happened.
I'm expecting the camera to like pan over and there's just like, a whiteboard with different pictures, and there's a giant Askarov with a circle around it right in the middle. And
you do see I wrote, give us ASCII.
Well, that's a start,
I guess that's where I landed after all of the caffeine and excitement wore off.
We're going to see some threads up and down the side tomorrow.
That's right.
Hey, we mentioned it. Preds play the Montreal Canadiens tonight, and
yes.
The Canadiens are the Montreal Canadiens.
There you go.
I mean, there's not much to say about them. They're tanking hard for Connor Bedard. 2-7-1 in their last 10 games. I mean, on paper, Anne, this should be a win for Nashville.
Yeah.
But
this has to be a win for Nashville. Like, let's just be real about it. This has to be a win for Nashville. Nashville has got to come back from this Toronto game that ended on a big mistake and an unfortunate loss. They have got to win this game against Montreal tonight. And I think they need to do it emphatically.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you would love to see the Preds have a type of performance they had the last time against Montreal. Of course, they won 6-3 last week. You would hope they would kind of have that same sort of zestiness in their game. A game. I think you and I were talking about it, that game against Montreal. One of the few times we've seen the Predators, go up big early, get out to a big start early, and then put their foots on the necks of their opponents and just kind of keep driving the score. Getting better as the game went on,
yes.
Not relenting. How many times have we kind of seen hot starts and then a big cool down and things catch up and you need a big third to get yourselves out of it? You would ideally like to see that same sort of linear, every period is better than the last period you played kind of play tonight. Again, it's probably going to be Kevin Lankinen in goal. Probably.
We'll see what I tell John Hines when he calls.
Yeah, we'll see that. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this should be a win. I would be very comfortable if the Predators would, kind of blow this one out. Or, if it's close, maybe a game in which the Predators dominate and maybe are just undone by a good goaltending performance on the other end, but still come out with like a 1 or 2 goal lead win.
Yeah, this needs to be a win regardless. This needs to be a win tonight. I agree. And here's just an idea I want to throw out. Don't give up late period goals, because the Predators did that last time against Montreal. Like, let's just not do that. Let's start strong and play stronger, like you said. Upward trajectory, Nashville. Upward trajectory.
Yeah, big if true. Again, Nashville Predators take on the Montreal Canadiens tonight in Montreal. It is a 6:00 puck drop Central Time for those of you who want to watch. And we will have your full recap tomorrow on the Locked On Predators podcast. So be sure to tune in. And if you're listening, be sure to send in 2 one word on Twitter.
Brian, that way 24. We need you.
Yeah, that way each of us can steal one. And where can the people find your work?
You can find my work at InsideThePreds.com, and you can find me on Twitter at ANK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me on theforecheck.com. Follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show on Twitter as well, LO_Predators. Let us know if you have a one word we can steal, or if you just have comments on the show, want to get a take in, or have a thought on a future segment we should do. However you're listening to us, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform like Apple, Spotify, or Amazon, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll always know when we have fresh content out for you, and helps us out with some of our numbers too. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.